another question for you before we hop into it.
Yeah.
Have we ever gone over the different team compositions in the game? I'm like scrolling up through it, and I'm not sure if we've ever gone in depth on them.
Um, I think we spoke about roles, but I don't think we went around like when to play what. Because I
Okay,
think
yeah, because that's what I
we
was about to
spoke.
go into.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to go
Okay.
into here with like when would you want to swap to another support? Is kind of what I was gonna
Okay.
answer for you.
Awesome.
So if I were to give you a quick something over Discord here. Is this a chart that you've ever? I don't think I've sent this to you before. Right? This is the
Our
first time you've seen it.
closer stuff.
Yep. So
I've never seen it though, but
yeah,
I kind of understand like if you have
yeah.
like a diva. Well, you have single tank now, but if you have a diva or a Winston, then maybe like a Mercy Zen might be good versus. Well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking old Overwatch when you had two dive tanks, but you know.
Yeah. So you're on the right track, right? Like you kind of when these are the three main team compositions in the game, and they have always
Mhm.
existed in the game, and they still currently exist in the game, and they probably will continue to exist in the game. That's dive, brawl, spam, and then you have hybrid compositions, which is sometimes kind of like a mix of between them. Sometimes they can be valid compositions. Sometimes they're not really. A lot of times hybrid is more of like this deathmatchy, everyone's playing kind of like whatever, and that's usually like a negative in a ranked connotation. But it can be an actual composition. Now,
Okay.
dive, brawl, spam, right? All pretty standard. Each character you should try to fit in with your composition that your team is running, because if you're running something contrary to your team, then sometimes you can run into issues where you are just not being effective, right? So, and each character can apply to composition in different ways. Like for example, if I took Reinhardt, Reinhardt as a character is very much a brawl character. He can't really do dive too well. Can't really do spam too well. He's bad in both of those compositions. Therefore, if your whole team was spam and you're on Reinhardt, then you're not really going to be able to operate too effectively. You're going to have a very difficult time of things. Not impossible, but it's a major handicap.
Okay.
Dive compositions by how do they play dive is pretty standard. It's pretty everyone knows what a dive is. You playing very mobile characters, so think Monkey Diva. You're like you said with before. Mercy Zen works fine with dive. Ana usually works pretty good with dive. Um, you start off far away, you dive in close. You start off usually at it kind of depends. You can start off at a faster pacing if you go in for a full dive, or you can you start off a bit slower until you ramp up and get ults and kills and whatnot. Now, spam and brawl, they get very one-dimensional, but also very important to understand how they work. Brawl is very fast and close. So, like I said before, Reinhardt.
Hmm.
You can't be sitting far away and playing slow, because otherwise Reinhardt just sits there and does nothing. Spam is the exact opposite. They want to play far and play slow because they're long-ranged characters. This would be characters such as Sigma or Roadhog or other characters like with supports would once again probably be Mercy, Zenyatta. Also, Baptiste would be another spam character.
Okay.
Then DPS wise would be like snipers, Junkrat, Pharah, Hanzo, more medium long range characters that want to take it a bit slower. Um, and whenever you're playing into them, like if you're a brawl, like between the two, whoever's playing their end of things better wins. Because, brawl, if you're playing faster, if you're playing to your strength, then you're putting them at their disadvantage and you win. If you can tiptoe away and constantly take the fight slow and play far away, then you put brawl outside of their comfort zone and you play to your specialty. So it's kind of a
Hmm.
2-for-1, and then you get the advantage and you win. Like I said, it's not usually too great if you're trying to split yourself, if your team composition is like half brawly, half spammy, because then you're kind of splitting your team in half in what everyone's trying to do. Um,
Okay.
all that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
All right, so now back to supports. Ana. is primarily going to be good with dive and brawl. She is not so fantastic in spam. That is where she loses a lot of her value. This is going to be because for a couple of different reasons, such as one, the fact that there's just other better characters for spam, that so that she just gets outclassed. Two, she's gonna have difficulty landing her abilities, and when she does land her abilities, she's not going to have as much follow up on her abilities. Let's say we sleep someone on the enemy team. If you're playing at a far distance, who's going to capitalize on it?
Yeah.
Right. Then on top of that, you don't, like I said, you just don't have the utility in comparison. Like if we thought about Mercy Zen or Baptiste, Baptiste doing big group healing, having the ultimate that's used from far away. Ana's ultimate usually with like spammy characters doesn't work as well, right? So thinking like, okay, Sigma, Widow, Hanzo, these characters a lot of times aren't as good with the nano. So overall, there's just a lot better characters, and she's more of a meh to okay pick. She's a
Okay.
flexible character, so she can work with it. She's okay in it, just not the best.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so that would be one of the times that I would probably recommend swapping up to another character. Um, Baptiste, he is going to be good in spam and brawl, but bad in a dive. He cannot keep up with, like, how's he going to try to heal or immortality a wrecking ball who's rolling around, or a monkey who's inside of the enemy team while he's sitting back on the front line, right? It's not going to work out too well for him.
Mhm.
Brig, Briggs kind of not too great and not too good of a space at the moment, but by design she is a brawly character, right? She
Okay.
needs to be able to go and smack stuff, or else she is not doing anything. If she's just chilling out, sitting there and throwing packs, then other characters are much better at that, right? Like Ana, Bap, Moira's, like pretty much any other character does more healing than her if you're just chilling, right?
Okay.
So she needs to. So she is brawly. Therefore, she is terrible. Usually, brawl characters and spam characters are terrible on the. Not all, but Brig is terrible as a spam character. Reinhardt's terrible as a spam character. And Widowmaker's terrible as a brawl character, right? Like,
Mhm.
so a lot of the times they don't really mesh too well. But Junkrat is both. He's a brawly spam character, right? He can work in both environments. Um, then Brig is workable with a dive because her packs can keep up with them. It's just maybe a bit more difficult. Um,
Yeah.
Workable though.
So
Kiriko.
the I guess the general idea is like with dive, right, as a support, you're not necessarily having to like healing output is required less, right? Like there's more
Mm,
sustain in dive, correct?
yeah, dive is Brawl eats up the most damage because you're running in fast and getting in the enemy's face, right? So think about how much damage a Reinhardt takes in comparison to how much damage a Monkey takes.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, Reinhardt's going to take more damage than Monkey. Spam, if they're playing properly, also shouldn't be taking as much. I would say that if you're playing it well, dive probably takes the least, then spam, then brawl takes the most.
Okay.
Most healing requirement. Brig is also good in like a actually no, I changed my mind. She was good in a counter dive environment, so if you're playing it against dive, now she's a bit more like meh just because of how they've gotten rid of her stun, and yeah, she's
Yeah.
not as good.
Usually the times that I've picked her recently would have been if there's a ball that just no one is getting kind of out of hand, like I would be on Anna or Zen, and then ball would just drop on me and kill me. So I would switch. Or when before Doom got nerfed again, after he got buffed, I was playing Brig to try to deal with Doom. But
Yeah. Really, and then really in those cases, you just be like whip shotting them for disruption, right?
yeah, pretty
Um,
much. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay, that's good to know.
Kiriko, with Kiriko, you are gonna be best in a dive composition. She can keep up really, really. I have to think through this one because I don't think I've walked. I've mentally walk through it as much yet. But Kiriko is gonna be best in a dive. She can keep up really well. She has insane mobility and her kunai or sorry her healing afudas are gonna be really easy to get on top of people, right? Then next after that, I would say probably I'd say she's probably about even with it. She's probably at the moment because she's also a really good character at the moment. I'd say she's about
Okay.
even being pretty okay with brawl and spam. I'd say she's really good with dive. Oh, pretty okay with dive and spam because um, spam. I'd say she gets a lot of value with the old combos. She can combo with a lot of different spam characters. Like for example, like you can think of like Soldier Visor that she can combo with, and just like being able to shoot insanely fast just comes really handy with a lot of different spammy characters. But then also you can say the same thing. It helps Brawl run in and just get on top of the enemy team, so it works really well with a Brawl. Honestly, I'd say maybe Brawl's a bit better. I'd say if I'm thinking
Okay.
that through, right? Like I'd say it goes dive significantly, the best, then Brawl, then spam. Just because as well, like spam doesn't mesh as good with the rest of her kit. Like if she's just like once again, if she's just like chilling there, then she's not really doing too much with her kunai. She's not getting damage value, because she's not good at ranges with that. And then if you're just doing healing, there's other characters that just do like healing better and have more utility better than you, right? Like Baptiste is going to have if you're just sitting there with a spam, then Baptiste has the longer immortality, does more group healing, does better group healing, and also can shoot and do damage from a range, right? So it's just basically just the better character if you're sitting at that spam range. It makes sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now when I'm saying all this, note that this isn't taking into account like I'm just talking about base characters. I'm also not taking into account like what's actually meta at the moment. So
Okay.
that may not be a end all be all statement because Kiriko's also has been really good. So that she's very flexible at the moment.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Lucio is Brawl, right over that all the way because he's the utility that he provides is speed. He can speed the enemy in on the he can speed the Brawl into the enemy team, which is really handy. He's
Hmm.
almost a must pick for a lot of brawls because if you don't
Okay.
have the speed, then you're going to be super slow and clunky. Um, then so he's like S tier with brawl. Then after that, he's not so fantastic in spam. He's bad in spam because once again, like the primary part of like why would you ever pick Lucio? You pick Lucio for speed, right? That's one of the biggest reasons why you'd ever be on Lucio in the first place. And if
Hmm.
your team is playing a comp that just sits there, then what's your speed doing? Right?
Yeah.
Um, Dive, he's okay with. He's workable with, right? Because he can kind of go in with them and stuff, right?
Okay.
Mercy, she is best with a spam and with a dive because she can keep up real well with dive. She can, and she's usually good at pocketing dive and also more especially spam characters. She's really good with the spam because she probably best with the spam because she can those are the best pocket targets. Think Ash, think Sojourn, think Soldier, think Bastion, right? All spam characters who are really great pockets. Pharah, spam slash dive character. So she's best with those, and then she's not too great in brawl. She's because there's a lot of because brawl needs high outputs of healing. Mercy's not high outputs of healing, and she also kind of lacks utility that syncs up with a brawl. How
Hmm.
are you gonna res if your team is dying inside of the enemy team?
Yeah.
Right. Moira, brawl character, right? High outputs of healing and damage. Bad in a I'd say usually bad in a dive and a spam, right? Dive you can maybe make it work if you're but it's very niche if you're diving in with your team. If you're not diving in like if you're not fading in with your tank and your team, then you're just out of range of your healing. If you're diving in, then you're putting yourself in a really risky position, and I just say it's a niche play style.
Hmm.
When there's other characters that do it better. And then spam, once again, you kind of run into similar problems where other characters just have better utility. Spam's not taking as much damage, so your healing's kind of redundant. You're not really doing as much when other characters just do more. So
Okay.
she's kind of more okay. I'd say she's best in brawl, okay in spam. I'd say okay to meh, right? Anna's probably still better in spam than her, and then she's bad in dive. Zenyatta, um, pretty flexible. I'd say he's best with a. Ooh, he's good with a dive and a spam, right? Those where he's best. Spam, he's long range. He's able to keep up with it. He's able to disc. He's really just that's the primary thing, right? He has a lot of damage output from the range, and that syncs well with the spam. Um, Dive, he's able to keep orbs. Orb is able to keep up with the dive, which is going to be handy, as well as discording what they're diving. And then Brawl, he's more like meh to okay. Right, like he's workable with it because he can kind of discord what they're running down. But he doesn't do very much healing, and they need a lot of healing a lot of times. And like you'd be better off on like a character like Lucio who can speed up around, right? So it's just other once again,
Okay.
there's it's gonna be a combo of like when characters are bad with the comp, sometimes it's just because it's other characters who are so much better with it. All right, so that's most of that. All making sense? Any questions on any of it?
Um, Not right now. No, I guess like the only question would be in a situation where you have like a spam comp, right, and you're playing like Zen,
Mm-hmm.
but your whole team is like spammy,
Mm-hmm.
but then the enemy team is running like dive. What do you do?
Yeah. So then in that, so when you're picking out comp as like your character, you have to take into account both your comp and the enemy team comp, right?
Yeah.
Team composition dictates play style, what characters you should be on, and how you're playing. So you shouldn't just take into account yours, but also the enemy team. So if you're playing a
Correct.
spam comp and they're on a dive, you said, right? Um, then maybe play something that has a bit more survivability up into a dive, but also works in spam. So, for example, a Baptiste would probably have more survivability than a Zenyatta, right? Being
Correct. Yeah.
being able to, and even Mercy too, right? Mercy and Baptiste would be easy. Mercy with very high mobility. Baptiste with the ability to jump away, has self healing, and can has immortality field if needed. Right, so he has multiple options. Mercy
Hmm.
has mobility. So you have to keep in mind the situation. Something else to keep in mind as well is what supports work well together. Right, so we talked about what supports work well with compositions, but also different supports work good with other supports. Generally speaking, in a ranked, this isn't an end all be all in like team settings, but generally speaking, in a ranked environment, you want one kind of what you call, and this isn't really a correct term, but it's the ranked term.
Hmm.
Usually, in a team setting, you say main support and flex support or off support. But in comp, you hear a lot probably main healer, and really just what that means is a healer that does a lot of healing. And usually
Hmm.
you want one healer that does a lot of healing and one healer does utility. Because if you're
Okay.
running two characters that do a lot of healing, oftentimes the healing just becomes redundant. If you're running like Ana Bap, so the main healers would be like Ana Bap, Moira. Maybe you can add Kiriko in there a little bit, right? Kiriko's like kind of, because she's kind of in the middle, right?
Hmm.
If you're running like an Ana and a Moira, well then you just have way too much healing, right? Like what are you going to do with all of it because you're not taking that much damage, right? And then you end up missing out on extra utility that you could be
Okay.
getting. So it's not as good. You also don't want to be running to utility care support. So like you don't want to run, for example, Mercy Lucio a lot of the times because it's just too low healing. Right? You're not going to be
Mhm.
able to keep up very easily, and then you're going to spend too much time healing and not enough time on your utility. Um, so you wouldn't run. So that those supports would be Lucio, Mercy, Brig, Zen. Usually not great in combination with each other unless you're on a very low maintenance composition where you're not taking a lot of damage.
Okay.
Yep. So all that makes sense to him.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So that's the when to pick what. Now why don't we go through the quick tips and play styles per character.
Yep. Okay.
Baptiste. Also, what time are we? I just want to see like what time we're ending here. So we're like 20 minutes in. Um, go another 40 minutes. Yeah. All right. So that would be roughly around 11 o'clock.
Okay.
This is what we're looking at. All right. So, Baptiste. Um, obviously, for some of this, apologies if I'm mentioning stuff you know, or if I'm mentioning stuff that like isn't applicable to you because I haven't seen your gameplay with all of them. But I'm gonna do like generalized stuff that like
Yeah.
so general tips and general like pitfalls that people can often fall into with BAP. BAP is with positioning. You want to position close to your team and medium distance from the enemy team is where you want to position. Because if you get further away from your team, you miss out on a lot of areas. Firstly, noting that your shift range is 10 meters. So that is from here to there. I can shift and it hits them. If I step
Okay.
here, now it's not going to hit them. So that's one thing you'd miss out if you're going further away. The further away you go from your teammates, you can't heal. You have delayed and less accurate healing because it's a projectile, and then also delayed and less accurate immortalities as well from this range. On top of that, you're not going to be able to ult as effectively for your team because you're all the way back here, so it's going to be difficult to line up that angle. Now, this is negated sometimes if you have like a high ground. Sometimes having the high ground can make this beneficial, but a lot of times you want to be close to your team. Then
Okay.
medium range from an enemy team. If they're on a dive, try to have your crouch charged up to be able to leap up like the moment they dive on top of you, and that can negate a dive very easily. Then let's see. Your E has the same projectile path as your right click. So if you're trying to throw a longer ranged one, maybe toss in a right click or two to see where it's going. When you're throwing your lamps, look to use cover with them, right? So we've talked about a lot of cover, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we're throwing it right here, then they destroy it immediately. But if you throw it right here, then it covers a lot of the same area, except for now it has cover, and they're not going to be able to destroy it as easily. Right. Shift, you use it in 3 main settings. You use it when you or your teammates need burst healing. So that'd be, if you need your critical, low HP, or in danger, and you just need extra healing, that can add in a burst of healing. You use it when big groups of people need healing, and also self-healing, right? Self-healing's gonna be really good with it, just because it gives you extra heals for the self, right? Trying to think if there's anything else here. Not all the time, but most of the time your ult wants to be used for your team. That's where it gets the most value because most people are shooting through it. But it can be used personally, either for raw healing output, like if you're trying to double your healing, or if you're trying to double your damage. Though those are going to be slightly more niche usages. That kind of depends on the scenario. Do you see a perfect opportunity to get kills? Do you see an opportunity where you can keep your team alive by getting uber healing?
Okay.
Now, if you can do faster healing output by holding down your buttons together here. So it would basically look like this, where we left click and then right click, and we just hold down those buttons and we kind of tie them in together. But this is going to be mainly effective if we have like a team in front of us. Right, because if we have our team in front of us and they're all like kind of clumped up, then they can kind of steal all your bullets. Because otherwise you're gonna have to look down and get the timing right, and kind of have to get used to that a little bit. Right, is shooting and then looking down. If it's only one person, then you're gonna have to get used to that. But that can help up your actions per minute. Right, just get you doing a bit more. That's one personally I need to work on if I play Baptiste. Yeah, okay. I think that's mostly about it. But yeah, did you have any questions on that?
I mean, you covered all the good stuff. I would say anytime I play BAP, I'm either like I think I tend to try to do too much damage instead of like healing. I think that's always an issue for me.
Like this is going to be something that applies on Bap, on Kiriko, on Moira, and on and less so on Zenyatta, because Zenyatta is primarily damage.
Hmm.
But especially with Moira, Bap, Kiriko, you heal when healing is needed, and you
Hmm.
damage when healing is not needed. Right. So that's
Yeah.
that's the way it goes. And generally speaking, on Bap, I'd say it's probably gonna be like a 65-35 or something like that. So a split where you're doing healing and then damage, and maybe 60-40. It are they
Hmm.
just, how much damage are they taking? Because sometimes you'll have to heal for 80% of the game. Sometimes you'll have to heal for 50% of the game, right? Just because it'll differ. So but the general rule is, if people need you to heal, then you need to heal, right? And then whenever you have the downtime, whenever you don't need to heal, that's when you swap over to the damage and you start shooting at stuff. And that will mean that you don't waste time. That's the same thing that applies to Moira. Moira is about more time-wise is more 50-50 between the two.
Hmm.
Kiriko, I'd say probably similar to Bap, where she's probably going to be like I'm trying to think here. She's probably going to be around that 60-40, and then it'll just differ, right? It'll just depend. I'd say if anything, it's probably going to go up more than anything else. It's going to be, you're going to need more healing sometimes. Um,
Okay.
Sometimes it'll be more like 70-30, right? That sort of thing.
Shouldn't have
Um,
put your head there.
Yep, that makes sense.
Hmm. Yep, makes sense.
Alrighty, Brig.
Breaking me down, just building me
Um,
up.
Brig, like we said before, Brig is a character that needs to be in there doing things, or else he's just kind of chilling around, right? Like if I'm just
Mhm.
sitting here, then I'm whip shotting and I'm packing, and then I'm missing out on like half of my kit, because one, I could be missing whip shots, and now I'm not proccing Inspire. So you're getting
Mhm.
less Inspire, which means you're getting less healing. You're also getting less damage. Less healing and damage means you're getting less ults. So let's sum that up real quick. If you are not swinging on things ever, then you are getting a slower ultimate. You are getting less healing and less damage output, which is meaning that you're missing out on a lot of your kit, right? Additionally, now your bash, it does 50 damage, so it can be used. It's not
They
the
come so close.
best to be used offensively. A lot of times you want to use it defensively too, because it travels so much distance now. You want to use it defensively to get away from danger or to get
Mhm.
two teammates, right?
Ultimate be bra.
But so it's more mobility currently, but you can use it in elims as well, right? And you're not getting value out of getting on people if you're never getting on people, right?
Makes sense.
Bye
Um,
bye.
let's see. Rally range. I don't know if I know rally range. Is it 10 meters? I think it's 10 meters. So, nope. It's less than that. 7 meters. 7 meters. 5. Yeah, something like that. 7 meters here. Is rally range. Make sure you're just getting aggro with that. Packs. Be very careful of overhealing with packs. Now, this is probably something we haven't. Have we talked like in depth on overhealing with Ana? Because I don't know. Ana's not
Yeah,
usually. Yeah.
we spoke about it, but you did mention that it's not as prevalent on
Yeah.
Ana versus other characters.
Yeah, not as nearly as prevalent on Ana, because you have to be very intentional with each shot.
Hmm.
Baptiste, Brig, Kiriko, Mercy, Lucio, pretty much every other support. I'd say the only supports that don't really have to worry about overhealing as much are Ana and Zenyatta. I'd say like the main supports that don't really have to worry about. Maybe a bit of Lucio, but even Lucio can overheal. It's other sports, it's really important to watch out for overhealing, because overhealing wastes so much time and resources on other characters. If I'm packing someone who's full HP, then that just did nothing. And then it wastes one
Hmm.
of my packs, right? So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of resources. And on these more spammy characters, it can be very easy, like on Baptiste, it can just be very easy just to keep holding down the right click. Just to keep holding on the right click. On Moira, it's very easy just to hold it down and then waste all of your resources. Same with Kiriko, and then you just end up wasting time and resources, and it's just no good for anyone. So be very careful with your packs. Don't use it when someone's full HP. It does about like 120 or 40 or something like that. So that's, you know, keep that in mind. I wouldn't double pack someone unless they're really low or it's a tank. Noting that they don't do double time healing, they just stack on top of each other and it does one then the other. Then besides that, have you adjusted all your different sensitivities between the supports?
No.
But
I think Lucio. Actually no. I think I've been using the same for everyone.
yeah, or well, same what?
Same sensitivity. I would say.
Oh, sorry, correction. I don't mean if I go to options here. I'm not saying mouse sensitivity. I'm saying, like, you know, on Ana how you have nano boost sensitivity.
Oh, like those, the nuanced ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm,
No, I don't think I have
yeah.
actually. Just
So
the only one I've ever paid attention to is Ana.
yeah, note that pretty much a lot of the other sports have that too. So Brig, armor pack sensitivity, right? Adjust that. Same thing as Ana nano boost. Kiriko,
Okay.
swift step and healing Afuda sensitivity, right? I'd recommend, you know, changing those up as well. Maybe a bit
Okay.
on the higher end. I'd recommend, like, you know, maybe set more like 70, 80 rather than 60 or 50.
Okay.
Then also I'd recommend on Kiriko, turn off toggle healing Afuda. That will mean that that'll mean that you're able to just more easily swap between them. Whereas by default, if you press your heals, you're gonna do the whole healing unless you cancel it. So you'd have to press
Oh, okay.
healing and then cancel it and then swap to it. It's not technically faster, but it's easier to swap between them if you turn toggle off. Then you have Mercy. Mercy, I would turn on prefer facing target. This is the best of both worlds between the other two options. I don't,
Okay.
have you seen people use that yet?
No.
No. So that basically means that if I'm healing this guy but looking at this guy, I fly to this guy. If I'm healing this guy
Oh.
and I'm looking at nothing, then I fly to the person I'm healing. Makes
Oh,
sense?
okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
It's better for your movement, I guess. Or...
Yeah, it's better because it just means if you have nobody else to, like, if you have no other like this, for example, like, can help you stick with like a like if you're flying around with a Pharah, you stick around with a Pharah unless you're intentionally trying to fly to something. You
Okay.
stick with the person you're trying to stay with. So it kind of gets the best of, like, beforehand, before they added that, everyone was always like, no, this one's better, no, that one's better, between the two, and they just added the one that's a mix between the two, and it's the best one, right? Now, so that's prefer facing target, the bottom one. Then you also have guardian angel sensitivity, your flight sensitivity, your beam sensitivity. Beam probably doesn't need to be can be a bit lower than the flight. Toggle guardian angel, that one, I usually have that off, I think, so I have to hold it. Actually, you know what? I think I can't remember. I think I adjusted that because now you can shift as well. We'll go over that in a minute. All right. Then Lucio, I would recommend make sure you have allow block backwards wall right on. I don't know why that's still the setting and they don't just have that auto. I don't know why anyone would not want to wall ride backwards. And then hold the crossfade. I'd probably that one's more like, you know, it's up to you. It doesn't really matter too much. Zenyatta orbs too. You can change up. Moira doesn't have anything.
Wait. What's hold the crossfade for Lucio?
Hold the crossfade is if I want to speed, I hold down the button and I stay holding it, and then if I let go, then it swaps back to healing by default. The other one means that you just swap between them back and forth, so it's like a toggle. So I usually prefer hold ones because it allows for more, I guess, more, in my opinion, nuance in being able to let go when I want to let go.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Rather than having to press the button again. That's usually my preference. Same thing with toggles. Like, I wouldn't want a toggle scope where I'm like holding it in and I have to press the button again. I'd rather just hold and let go.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes sense. Yeah.
And then there's other really nuanced things that people have debated about on Lucio since the beginning of time. One's not significantly better than the other. That's why I said because people debate like, oh, like what if I get stunned? Then it automatically swaps back to healing, right? Like that's a good thing, and then like, people debate it all the time. It's not a big deal.
Mhm.
All right. And then that's about it. With settings.
Okay.
Brig. Note that you're really squishy at the moment. Like you have. This is why Brig's not great. Yes, you want to do stuff, but you have to be really careful in picking and choosing when you do stuff, right? So make sure you're whip shotting off cooldown. You should be constantly whip shotting because this procs your inspire. Your whip shot has a range of 20 meters. You have to be right here to be able to whip shot, and you constantly want to be using it because that means that you're constantly automatically healing with your inspire. It activates
Okay.
it. Try to get in and do things. Let your tank go in before you and tank for you. If you get in danger, you have a lot of distance with it. Pretty sure you go further if you add a jump at the end. Same thing with Moira. If I just do this, I go to here. If I do it and then at the very end I jump, then I can carry the momentum and get over to here, right?
Okay.
Same thing with Moira's jump, right? Moira's fade. That's mostly it. I think for the most part, try to be very careful as your engagements going, as you're being able to be safe about it. Here you go.
Mhm.
I'll find my
Um,
own path.
Same thing as you're talking about with Bap, with this difference between healing and damage. Your Suzu and your Immortality are used they're used similarly to Ononade, except for you want to think of it more of danger, right? Ononade, they need to be low HP. Suzu and Immortality Field, they don't need to be low HP, right? It's just when they're in
Okay.
danger, right? Because you can't Ononade to save them from a Diva Bomb, and Diva Bomb doesn't care about HP, right?
Mhm.
But you can Suzu and you can Immortality, so you have to pay attention to danger level of teammates.
Okay.
Health will impact it, but it's not indicative of danger. So pay attention to, is this person gonna die if they don't get it, right? And you want to actively watch
Yeah.
out for them. Besides that, you want to position close range. If you're trying to do things, you want to position usually closer range to teammates so that they get faster healing. Otherwise, they get slow healing, right? It's going to
Mhm.
take time for it to get to them. And then also slow and less accurate Suzu protection if you're further away from your team. If you need to get closer to your team, you can, swift step to get closer to them. Just for faster healing. Same thing with enemies. If you're trying to duel an enemy, you do very poor damage from a range because of how slow your kunai are. So getting up closer means much easier shots. And then if we come in and we're trying to go into a duel, you can hold down the swift step button so that as soon as you acquire a target, you're able to TP. So I can go in and duel here. I go pew pew bang bang pew pew bang bang Suzu pew pew bang bang. Okay, I'm in danger. Swift. I just like do a quick flick with my swift step and I'm out. Try to have
Okay.
someone constantly in the back of your head. You don't want to just swift step to someone random. Try to have unless it's a last resort. Try to have someone in mind who you can. Oh, and whenever you're in danger, have someone in mind who you can TP to get out of danger, who's not in danger themselves, right?
Mhm.
And then they're your get out of jail free card.
Okay.
You have very brief invulnerability frames with your swift step, so you can potentially dodge damage and dodge abilities and ultimates by swift stepping, but it's not nearly as much as it was before. And a lot of times, if you're able to, it's better off just like TPing out of it than it is trying to dodge it with the swift step.
Yeah.
Suzu. Trying to think what I can say with Suzu. Yeah, just make sure you're using it when it's needed. Don't, try. It's really about getting the timing right. When are they in danger? And note that it does a minor bit of healing and a minor bit of knockback as well. But you're not often going to want to use it for that. That's like a very, very niche thing. But what that does mean is that if you're trying to, that can boot people off of you if you're using it on yourself. Right, so I can do this, and it'll boot them a hair, but it's really not much.
Oh.
Not much at all, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. I'm just letting you know the tech. Note that there is a healing range on your there's the range for your healing is the same range of your swift step. So if I'm
Okay.
back here, notice how it's not targeting. It's just
Hmm.
blue and not gold, right? And that is gonna be 30 meters, the same distance as your swift step. I'm pressing the button and I can't swift step from here, and now I can. Um, ultimate. Note that it can go down surfaces.
Yep.
Like you can like come from up here and use it. And then also in your ultimate, because it does 2 times speed with your abilities, you can get 2 Suzus in during it. Used to be
Okay.
3, now it's 2. So I can ult, pop Suzu, and then the ultimate lasts 15 seconds. So that by the time the ultimate ends, I have another Suzu active and ready to use.
Okay.
But that is, it is still like, you know, it's you still would have to wait 7 seconds. So don't
Hmm.
waste the ability. Use it if you know you don't think that there's gonna be another imminent need for it soon, right? If you
Hmm.
feel as though within the next 7 seconds you might need it, then don't use it. Hold on to it. But if you're like,
Okay.
okay, everyone's full HP, we're running in, nobody like I don't think the enemy team's about to ult, right? Then you can use it for like just extra protection and stuff, right?
Mhm.
That sort of thing. All right. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of that.
Take some time off.
All right. Questions so far? Anything?
Um, let me think here. Where I guess more of a general question, I guess. When it comes to Zen, like where do you think he's viable right now? Like, okay.
Not like a. Honestly, I'm not a meta expert. I'd say he's
Mhm.
probably more viable than Brig is.
Okay.
Especially the better your mechanics are, as
Mhm.
well, he's gonna be better. But if like I'm thinking through a lot of the other characters, I would say that a lot of characters just get easier and more value than him at the moment with more survivability. Um,
Mhm.
so I would probably say that I'd pick most other characters besides Brig. I'd say Zen outclasses Brig. Brig's probably the worst support at the moment.
Okay.
Zen probably comes in after that. I'd say at the worst. The only character that I can think of that probably is like is similar in like power level, but she's so darn easy to play would be like maybe
Moira.
Moira. Moira is just like
Yeah.
she's so outclassed by other characters that other characters just do more than her.
Yeah.
Especially for lower ranked or newer players. Um,
Yeah.
she's such an easy character to use. Plus, they
Yeah.
just buffed her as well, so that's the other thing. So I'd still say Zen's probably lower than her. Unless your mechanics are nuts. The other thing to note would just be like, you can't. It's gonna be really difficult to play him into a dive.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think speaking about Moira, I remember reading something. Someone said like one thing that can make Moira a little easy, like a little bit more balanced, is just remove her left click, so that or not her left click, her right click, so that you have to aim it instead of You remember how Sim used to have it where you could just hold it and it tracks? I think
Yeah, yeah.
symmetry.
So
Yeah.
so she
So
has
if you just
so she has soft locking. So that means that like I can I so
so
so it's soft locking, so I can aim like right here and it gets on them, right? That's what you call soft lock.
yeah.
So get rid of the soft lock and turn on the hard lock.
Yeah, just have it so you have to just aim it, like how Sims right click is
Beam is,
now.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it'd be easier, but
Yeah,
anyway.
I'd say yeah. So that would definitely like up the skill minorly. But then you'd probably have to rework something to buffer after that.
Yeah, she's
Um,
meant as like a beginner friendly
yeah,
character, right? So,
exactly. I'd honestly say that probably a better way to go about it, especially if you're trying to keep it easy and beginner level, would be to
mhm.
swap out some of the raw stats for utility, which is what they tried to do. And I saw a video where someone was talking about it, like how how they tried to add in the cleanse, or sorry, not the cleanse, the what was it called? Like you had like the weaken thing, right, where you sent it on the enemy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they had
yeah.
that in like the beta, right? But it failed just because I'd say primarily because they just made it way too powerful and they put it on way too long of a cooldown. What they could have
Mhm.
done is just like they had it on like 15 seconds and then it got rid of like most of their healing. What they could have done is just put it at a lower, and this is what they probably should do with like abilities like Onanade and stuff like that, where like some of these supports are struggling in like the mid fights because their abilities are yes, they're really powerful, but they're on such long cooldowns that other characters are just getting more value in the meanwhile. So if you're trying to, like, for example, get like a character like Ana to be more prevalent, then what you can do is instead of having a 10-second cooldown on nade, make it more, maybe make it like an 8-second cooldown and then nerf the duration of it. So like, now it's at 4 seconds, maybe revert it back to 3 seconds, but lower the cooldown, right? So that now you're getting it more frequently, and the more frequently you're getting it, the more you're able to use it and get it in there to do things, right? Like that sort of idea.
Yeah.
With these characters, so Moira, I think that'd be the way to go about it, is utility, but more consistent utility, and that keeps her a bit easier without requiring mechanic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Ana got buffed, right?
Yeah,
They
they changed
increased her
her
damage.
Oh
Or
yeah, they increased it. So she has 85 damage now, which means I can
you can
one,
two-shot a tracer now, right? Pretty much.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So you do more damage. You're easier to finish off people. You also, your nade went from 3 seconds to 4 seconds duration.
Okay.
They had previously nerfed it and then reverted the nerf.
Mm.
Okay. Lucio, if you are ever you or your teammates are moving anywhere, you should be on speed boost. If you or your teammates are not going anywhere, you're just kind of chilling, you're on healing. Or if healing is needed, right? So it's that as healing is needed, but your primary goal isn't always healing, right? As healing is needed, or if you're not going anywhere. If you're moving anywhere, then you're on speed. And noting that sometimes speed can negate damage, right? Like if you're getting from point A to point B faster, if you're crossing this open area faster, team's taking less damage. So it's probably better to be on speed during that than on healing, because we can make them take less damage. Wall riding, hold W, don't use left, don't use right. You can, but it's not like, if you're wall riding around, usually you're not going to use it. Left and right are going to be situational. Usually you're just going to hold W. You're going to spam your jump button.
Okay.
Turn it up, turn it up! This is my favorite.
Me off the edge with the momentum. It's basically a series of hops from one object to the next object. You constantly want to be positioning your walls, one for cover, two so you can just hop off at a moment's notice, right? Notice how much faster we are if I'm trying to get to that other side. If I'm just walking it with this versus if I'm walking it with this versus if I do this, right? Or even if I'm not amping it, if I just do this, right? I'm crossing that gap so much quicker if I'm getting the wall ride in there. Just a quick hop, right? So wall riding is a series of hops in a lot of cases. If you're trying to go up, look up. If you're trying to go down, look down. That helps with your ability to traverse. Besides that, amp is anytime you need an excess of something. So you need extra healing or extra speed, then you use amp. Bunch of your teammates are critical, you need extra healing. You're trying to sprint into the enemy team with it, like, let's say that you're using like nanovisor and you want to give your nanovisor extra speed, you amp speed on them, right?
Back off! Hello and goodbye! Maravilla! That's what I call pop! want that louder?
right here,
To this beat.
and I beat and I don't see them, but I drag it, then it'll still fly.
Pick it up.
Okay. Yeah. Right now it says 3, 2. Okay.
All right. Mercy.
Don't worry,
Um,
I'll be right behind you.
Different flight techs. Are you familiar with the different flight techs yet?
Now,
No, I know she can do some crazy stuff like movement wise, but I don't really know how to do any of it.
All good. Flight. Normal fly. You got
Mhm.
your normal fly. Fly 2-person. That's you press the button and you don't do anything else special. If I'm
Mhm.
trying to go past the person, I'm gonna fly and then press my space bar, and that launches me past the person.
Okay.
It's gonna be handy, for example, if I'm trying to not just be here on the open, but I'm trying to fly to this person and get around cover, right? Or get away from danger, or get 2 places faster, right? That sort of
Okay.
thing, right? Now, if I want to go backwards, so if I want to launch myself backwards, I'm going to fly, and I'm going to press the space bar, but this time, instead of not pressing any buttons or pressing W, I'm going to press S. So if you're pressing
Oh, back.
S while you press it, yeah, pressing your back button while you press it, then that launches you backwards,
Okay. Okay.
right? And we can go all the way back here. No, yeah, okay, same thing. All right, so this I don't think is affected at all by. Yeah, I don't. It's not affected by time traveled or distance, but your super jump
Mhm.
is. So this is your super jump. I'm going to fly normal, and then once I get close to them, or whenever I can do this, whenever I'm going to press my crouch button. So fly, crouch, and that launches you right up into the air.
Oh wow.
Yep. So that's the easiest way to do it. You can also do it like this, but it's not a great way to do it. Is to look up in the air, but
Mhm.
it's less consistent in my opinion. And it
Okay.
also kind of throws off where you're looking, so it's just not as good as pressing crouch.
Okay. So just so I remember that, so your normal, whatever you have it bind to, mine is shift, right? So you shift, you can fly. If you shift and press the jump button, then you go past them. If
Yep.
you shift and press the jump button but hold back, you go backwards. And then if you shift to them to fly to them and then hit crouch, you go into the air.
Yes, correct. And
Okay, cool.
the going into the air, the height will depend on how long you're traveling for. So if I'm traveling from all the way back here, and then I press crouch, then I go really high up in the air. If I'm doing it
Okay,
from right here and then press crouch, notice I don't go nearly as high.
I see. Yeah.
If
So
I
it's like velocity. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if I travel from back here and then press it immediately, I still don't go as high.
I see. I see. Okay.
Yep. You can also cancel it as well. If you have it on hold, you can just let go. If you have it on toggle, you press the button again.
Okay. Cool.
I think I haven't played enough Mercy, but I think that toggle may be a bit easier to use with like all of the like for example like the crouching that they added in. It might be easier to use so that you can just press one button then the other button with like better timing. But it's kind of like I tinker around with it. Res, know that you can res and drag around corners, so you can. I'll wait for them to die, but you can. Same thing as like kind of the Lucio beat is. I can wait for my teammate to die. I can res and die, please. Again, I can res and then drag it around the corner and still get away with the res. Note that whenever you're resing, you want to think about. Okay, we're running out of time here. Actually, think about like eyeball the res is what I could say. Right? Note you have
Yeah.
10 whole seconds to go for it. So don't go. Oh, I can't do it now, and then just leave and forget about it. Think I have 10 whole seconds. Just because you can't do it in the first second doesn't mean you can't in the 10th second. So you have to keep paying attention to the body. Think, do I have cover? Do we have teammates for protection? Are they actually looking at it? Are they near it? Do I have Valk? Valk gives you the ability to swoop in for it, right? That sort of thing. Pocket targets try to default to I like to refer to them as default targets. So think like Pharah. You will default to Pharah when you're not needed anywhere else. If you're not needed for healing, if you're not needed for res, then you're on Pharah because she's the best target to pocket. If you are needed, then you're on somebody else. Okay. Moira, half and half. Healing is needed. Damage is needed. Same thing with orbs. Same thing with coalescence. Orbs, you will more frequently be tossing in damage now because I don't know if you saw that patch, but it gives you resource now, right? So you're going to get healing resource by chucking orbs in, and it also gets you ult charge, so it's going to be pretty handy. Watch how my resource meter is going to tick up, right, off of that. So damage orbs are good, but healing orbs are needed in other scenarios where, like, for example, someone's far away and needs healing, or people need burst healing, or you're like completely out and people need healing immediately, or you already have your ultimate and you don't want to give them ult charge, right? Stuff like that, right? So it will still get value to use your healer because it is more burst healing. Okay, Zenyatta, you're primarily damage. Discord, anything you have orbed, note, yeah, left click. You want to left click on characters when you can actively see and shoot at them. And whenever there's a lull in time where you can't see someone, so let's say we're low HP, so we duck around the corner, or we're just walking around this corner, we're going to charge up a right click so that as soon as we see somebody, we're able to fire it off and get a volley in. So it's better burst value. So use this in kind of the in-betweens. And then when you actively have somebody, then you left click. Okay. Besides that, make sure sitting within range of trance. Zenyatta is a mid-range character. Don't sit at sniper's distance, because otherwise, once again, projectiles hard to land if we're sitting back here, even if they do the same amount of damage.
Okay.
That's about it. Yeah. We don't have to do a review. Just we went over so much, just like random junk there.
Yeah, no, this is super good. Yeah,
Right.
this is super helpful.
Yeah. Any
Awesome.
final questions?
No, not right now. I think now I want to try to just jump into some games after we're done here. Practice some stuff you show me. Just get a grasp for the stuff you just talked about, so it sticks in my head.
Yeah, I got you.
And then I think we have one more session left, right?
Yep.
There's one more.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the last one we could definitely maybe just do like a replay review. That one will most likely just be on it anyway, and then maybe just a few games on some other characters just to see kind of
All right.
some grasp ideas. But yeah,
Works with me.
okay, awesome.
I'll get you